Every president periodically escapes from what Harry Truman called the Great White Jail, but the rest and relaxation come at a price. His golf matches, while BP wrestled to control the Gulf oil spill, led Republicans to call President Obama out of touch.
Scheduling more tee times than Phil Mickelson during the greatest environmental disaster in our nation's history, that's out of touch.
And some who didn't complain about the First Family's R&R grumbled that they headed north to Maine after sending other folks south to the tourist-starved Gulf Coast.
This is still a place that's open for business and welcoming to vacationers, and people can have a wonderful holiday here.
At a time when he could be setting an example for the country by vacationing on the many places along the Gulf Coast that aren't sullied by the oil spill, he has chosen not to do that.
Scot Stanzel was deputy press secretary for George W. Bush, who spent nearly 2.5 of his 8 years in office at his ranch in Texas. Stanzel says it wasn't really vacation time.
We had an infrastructure in Crawford where the president continued to perform the duties in much the way he might when he was at the White House.
But historian Doug Wead says every president is always on the clock.
The work of a president is making decisions, and that work is ongoing. It doesn't matter whether they're on the golf course.
Still, timing is everything. Mr. Bush was flying back to Washington from his ranch when he took a look at Hurricane Katrina's damage. Too far away, as critics said, to offer help or feel the victim's pain. In 1992, Democrats said his father's golf showed he was too out of touch with the recession of the time to feel the country's pain or deserve re-election. Bill Clinton vacationed first in Martha's Vineyard, but his pollster found Jackson Hole, Wyoming looked less elitist and more appealing. Wead says all presidents calculate what we see of their vacations and what we don't, and he warns against rating a president by the amount of time he takes off.
Jimmy Carter had the lowest number of days off and the highest inflation.
President Obama may yet vacation on the Gulf Coast. In an NBC interview, he didn't rule out changing plans to go to Martha's Vineyard next month. The BP spill already caused him to put off a planned family trip to Indonesia, where he spent part of his boyhood, a trip he had put off much earlier this year because of the health care reform debate. Brett?
Wendell Goler with a gorgeous background there in Bar Harbor, as they called it in Maine. Wendell, thanks. Consumer